Hi everyone, I'm Akshat Agrawal, and in this video we are going to discuss the concept of where, having, and group by clause in SQL. Right? So this is the data which we are going to use in today's demonstration. In this particular table, there are four columns: class, subject, student, and marks. Right? So in class one, let's say we have a subject of mathematics, and student one scored 63 marks in that subject, right? And in class one for maths, student two scored 54 marks. Similarly, in class one science, student one scored 85 marks and student two scored 76 marks, and so on. Right. So this is how do we understand this data. Now let's directly jump to the practical part. Right. So I'll share this DDL commands to create this table into SQL so that you can practice. Right. So if you see the data here, so this is there are 17 rows in this data, and this is how it looks like. Correct. So let's understand the where clause first. Right. So where clause is very simple. It just filters the rows based on some condition. Right. So for example, when we use select star from student marks, it will give all the data. But let's say we want to filter the data where marks is less than or equal to 80 only. Right. So we can use the query like this. So we see it has filtered all the rows where marks is less than or equal to 80. Right. But let's say if we want to see marks is where marks is greater than 80. So we will use like this: marks is greater than 80, right? And execute this query. So we see we have only those rows where marks is greater than 80, correct? Similarly, let's say we want to see the data of class 1 only, right? So we write condition like this, where the column name and the value. So this will be the condition: column name, value, correct? So where class is equal to class 1. So select all the columns where class is equal to class 1. Correct. Similarly, let's say we want to see the data of student one only. So what we will write, select star from student marks where student is equal to student one, right? So this is how do we use where clause. So we can also have multiple condition inside where clause, like student is equal to student one and subject is equal to mathematics. So this will give us the rows where both of these conditions are true, since we have used and condition. Correct. So that is how where clause works in SQL. Now let us understand the concept of group by clause. So group by clause basically is used whenever we have to use any aggregate function. Aggregate functions like minimum, maximum, sum, average, or so on, right? So think it logically, but let's say we have this data, right? Select star from student marks. So if we are talking about these individual groups, then we have marks 63. But let's say if someone is asking the total marks which is scored by the students of class 1, that means we have to sum this much data, like from here till here. In such cases, we have to use group by clause. So let us understand some situations. So let's say the management wants to check the overall score in each class or subject or each student to see their strengths and weaknesses. Correct? So whenever we use any aggregate function like sum, min, max, average, we use group by clause. Correct. So for example, let's take the first scenario. We have to find the overall marks scored by all the students in each class. Correct? To see the class which is performing well. So what we will write, select the column names which we want to see. So let's say I only want to see class and the total marks of all the students and the subjects in that class. So what I will write, sum of marks as total marks. This is the alias given to that column name from the table name, group by class, right? Because I want to see the sum of marks according to each class. That is why I'm grouping the data by class only. Correct? So that is the thing. So if I run this query, select class comma sum of marks. So we see that the total marks scored by all the students in class 1 is 422, and class 2 is 409, and class 3 is 460. So if we order the data, sort the data in ascending order by the total marks column, so we see that class 2 is underperforming, followed by class 1 and then class 3. So class 3 has best performing among all, correct? But I think if the number of students and subject differs in each class, then sum of marks will not be a good criteria. Average marks will be a better criteria. Let's see next, correct? So let's say we want to find again another situation. Overall marks is scored by each student right? So see, here we had to group by class because the marks was asked according to each class. But now it is being asked according to each student. So we have to group the data by student. The query will be very similar. Select student, comma, sum of marks, total marks scored by that student from student marks table, group by student, like this. So see, student 1 has a score 226 marks, student 2 has scored 196 marks, and so on. But let's say there are different number of subjects for each student, right? In above, students may have different number of subjects. So sum of marks will not be a good criteria. Average marks will be a better criteria to judge the individual student's performance. Correct. So let's say if we have to use another aggregate function like average. Average marks scored by each student. So what we will write, select student, comma, average marks as average marks, the alias from the table name group by student. So what it will give us the average marks scored by each student. Correct. So now we can very clearly see that student 4 and student 7 are very good performing very good. Then, right? So we can order the data also, order by this average marks, or we can also use the column name which we have given, descending. So it will give us the correct data in sorted order. So we see that students 4 and 7 have the best performance, then followed by student 3, 1 and 6 and 5, and then student 2, right? So that is how management can decide that we have to focus more on student 2, 5, 6, and we have to appreciate student 4 and 7. That is how data analysts give insights to the management. Correct. So let's see another situation. Overall score, marks scored in each subject. Again, that will be very good. So there can be different number of students in each subject. So instead of sum, we will use average here. So select student, comma, average marks from student marks table, group by subject, correct, and order the data by average marks. So we see that in English and science, students are performing really well. Then mathematics is underperforming as compared to this data, correct? Then let's say we have to find score of in each class of all the students in each class and their respective subjects. So see, now we have to group the data according to the class as well as subject. So what we will do, select class, comma, subject, comma, average marks from student marks table, group by class, comma, subject. Right. So we have to group the data by class as well as the subject. Right. So if we see the output, so we see that in class 2 in mathematics, average marks scored by each student is 88. And for then let's say for class 3 mathematics, average marks is scored by each student is 67. So we can see in the same subject, class 3 students are not performing as good as class 2 students, right? Then let's understand the concept of having clause. So having is used to filter the rows according to the aggregate function, right? Based on the aggregate function used. So for example, till now we have seen, let's say this in this marks, average marks of students in each subject. But let's say if we want to see the average marks of each subject where the marks is greater than 75 only. That means we just want these two rows. So what I'm trying to say, we have grouped the data, but now we want to filter that data. So in such cases, we have to use having clause. When we have to use filter, when we filter the data based on an aggregate function, correct? So let's understand the situation. Find the classes where overall marks of students is greater than 450. So we have seen till here, find the classes overall marks in each class, right? So select class, sum of marks as total marks from student marks table, group by class. We have seen till now. So let's say the output of this much is this, correct? But if a question is, there is another condition where the marks overall marks of student is greater than 450. So we have to use having clause as we have to filter the data based on this group output, right? So having sum of marks is greater than or equal to 450. That is where the use case of having comes, correct? Let's say another situation. Find the subjects where our overall marks of student is greater than 400. So we have already seen how to find the overall marks in each subject till here, right? But we have to filter this data also. where marks is greater than 400. So having sum of marks is greater than 400 on, right? So this is the use case of having clause. Similarly, another case, so you can practice all of these. If you have any doubt, let me know in the comments, right? And if you have any other topic to discuss which you want me to cover next, please suggest me in the comments so that we can prepare accordingly, right? So thank you very much.